What's up, guys? It's Liz Kelly, and welcome to the Ringer Podcast Network. Before you get to the show, make sure you check out theringer.com for our extensive NFL coverage leading up to the Super Bowl. We also just published our 2019 NFL Draft Guide, where you can find all things draft-related leading up to the first round on April 25th. It includes prospect rankings, scouting reports, mock drafts, and much more. We'll be updating it regularly with new analysis that takes all the latest developments into account. Once again, you can check that out on theringer.com.
Who's the man? You are. Stuff of Legends. Proof of Life. Coming up next.
People take hostages all over the world. Sometimes it's purely terror. Other times it's simply about money. We wait for a contact, they make a demand, we start negotiating. This is what we do. We do it the world over, and we're very good at it.
You pull this off, suddenly it's a fairy tale ending. It doesn't work that way, and you know it.
All right, Bill Simmons is here. Chris Ryan is here. We started the Rewatchables. We didn't even know it was called the Rewatchables. We decided the first year of The Ringer, well before we even had a website.
Yeah.
December 2015. I was gone from Grantland, I would say 7-8 months. We decided to work together again. We were planning the new site. We had started my podcast. We had started The Watch. That was basically the Ringer Podcast Network. Heading into the holidays, 2015. And you and I, we kept going into these website planning meetings. And we would just do quotes from Heat. And then finally somebody said, you should just do a whole podcast about Heat.
Yeah, I think we said that.
Actually, I think I said that to you. So we did Heat. We did a whole podcast about how much we loved Heat, which basically became the Rewatchables.
Yeah.
So now we've done like 55 of these. People seem to like it. Every once in a while, we got to do one for us.
Yeah. This is
It's
like
15 for them, one for us.
That's right. That's right. And I think that this may not be the highest rated Rewatchables we've
Definitely
ever
won't
done.
be.
But for me, this is like we're going to talk about Proof of Life, the 2000 thriller set in South America, starring Russell Crowe and Meg Ryan, and it's like the Velvet Underground. It's like they didn't sell a lot of records, but everybody who heard them started their own band. Not a lot of people are going to listen to Proof of Life, but everybody who does is going to want to start their own Proof of Life podcast.
You think it'll just start them off?
Yeah.
My goal for this podcast is even if you've never seen Proof of Life or you've only seen it once, we're going to make it fun for you anyway.
Okay.
Because we have Russell Crowe stuff to talk about. We have one of the most famous romances that actually bled into the real movie that has ever happened.
Yeah.
Certainly for this century. There's a Russell Crowe, Meg Ryan career arc, apex conversation to have. And most important to me and Chris, the whole kidnap ransom movie genre.
Yes, which is really, really central to our origin myth.
And there's one other piece that we won't mention yet, but you and I both love ransom and kidnap movies. Why?
Because it's extreme drama. It puts so many characters in such extreme situations, and it makes them react in ways that they wouldn't in any other kind of scenario. So you've got parental anxiety or husband-wife anxiety, and then you've got these people who are not used to action and not used to being around guns and money getting traded, and then there's always like 3 or 4 twists, but we're avowed Man on Fire fans.
Yeah.
We love Ransom, High and Low, like there's just so many.
I separated into ransom movies and kidnapping movies.
Okay.
Ransom movies where you get kidnapped, but you get kidnapped for a purpose. I would say the Mount Rushmore is Man on Fire, Proof of Life, Ransom, and Fargo.
Yeah, that's a great call.
If I missed one, I can't think of it.
Yeah.
Just for the actual.
I think that's Rushmore for sure.
Here's the price. Are you going to pay this or not? And we can go on all the dynamics of this. Then there's kidnapping movies. So like Taken, Misery, Pain and Gain, Gone Baby Gone.
Pain and Gain,
kidnapping movie.
Yeah.
Gone Baby Gone, Hardcore. Kidnap with Halle Berry.
Oh, yeah.
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 So those are different.
Would you put Silence of the Lambs in the kidnapping genre?
There's a whiff of it.
Yeah, you can grandfather it
It's
in.
a cousin.
Yeah.
It's a cousin.
The senator's daughter.
Yeah. And I like kidnapping stuff so much that I even watched, there was an NBC show with Jeremy Sisto Timothy Hutton.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I can't remember the name of it, but I want to say it was called like Kidnapping or Taken. It had one of those type of titles. And Sisto was the guy they hired to see what happened. And it's usually, if it's done correctly, there's at least 2-3 really good twists.
Yeah.
Man on Fire, which is the other. To me, Man on Fire and Proof of Life are the two best ones.
Yeah, and I think that it's primarily because both of those movies they're set, Man on Fire is set in Mexico, and Proof of Life is set in a fictional South American country. But they both have that ex-military layer of like jargon and also that confusion of like, these are guys who used to be special forces who have now been hired by insurance companies or whoever else to be security or K&R in the case of Proof of Life. And you just get such a crazy deep, shadow world out of that.
And I love movies where I have to put myself in the situation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So in Proof of Life, Meg Ryan's husband gets taken, played by David Morse. The kidnappers are demanding a price. And then it's like, oh, could you cobble together $650? And Meg Ryan and her sister-in-law, played by Pamela Reed, are like, can you do $650? You'd have to mortgage.
Yeah.
It's always, there's some point where you just kind of have to look at each other and go, I'll remarry.
Well, especially if you've got Russell Crowe batting his baby blues at you.
Yeah, let's let him go.
Well, that's the great part about this, right?
Let's play hardball.
Like, there is a certain number where they don't have the money.
They just don't have it.
Yeah, and I love that part of this movie where Janice has to go back to Denver to put the money together, like she's building it. Because like now you get this sense that you just be like click, click, click and call your financial advisor. Not to say nothing of like how much money you'd be able to get, but it just seems so much easier. But back then you used to hear more, I got to move some things around to make this work.
Yeah.
And like when you're buying a car, it was like, well, I got to move some things around if I'm going to buy this car. But now it's not like that. But back then you had to go back to Denver.
South America, great location. South America, Mexico. There's something about, because there's been a couple kidnapping movies and then you read the stories, like it does feel much more realistic for some reason.
Yeah. I mean,
like the scene when he gets kidnapped in this movie, it feels realistic. It's like there's a parade, he's got to take a different route, and all of a sudden he's in.
Yeah, so this movie is set in the fictional country of Tikala, right?
Yeah, I wanted a vacation there, but that's how I found out it was fictional.
Right, but they do a really good job of giving you a sense of place. Like when David Morse's character, Peter, gets kidnapped, he can see this, like where he was supposed to be. Right off, it's like the last thing he sees before they put him in the truck. So you definitely have like this sense of how precarious life is there. Yeah.
Yeah, and like these roads where if you take a right, you go flying off the cliff. And all this stuff. So. Good scene for a thing. This actually was directed by Taylor Hackford, who did Blood In, Blood Out, Shea Serrano's favorite movie, Officer and a Gentleman. Has had some successful ones, has had some less successful ones. Written by Tony Gilroy.
Yeah.
Who...
I want to talk about that a lot.
Yeah, who is one of the best new screenwriters of the last 25, 30 years. Inspired by a Vanity Fair magazine article called Adventures of the Ransom Trade and a book called The Long March to Freedom. It came out, it did not do that well.
Yeah.
10 million opening weekend. International box office of 62 million. Not great. 5.3 Rotten Tomatoes. Mixed reviews. Roger Ebert said, I was interested all through the movie. Interested, but not riveted. I cared, but not quite enough. That's another loss for Roger Ebert. He's having a really terrible 2018.
Do you think that,
Rewatchables.
I'm trying to put myself back in 2000. I can't remember seeing this in theaters per se, but I remember caring a lot about it because of the relationship. I remember it being like on the tabloids. I think I was in New York right around then, and it was like on the in the New York Post that they had gotten together on this movie. And
early internet, not pre-internet, but still the internet. This happens now. It's a much bigger deal.
Yeah, but it's so strange to go back and watch it now because whatever was wrong, what people thought was wrong with it back in 2000, it's like everything that could possibly be right with a movie now.
Yeah.
And it's everything that movies don't do now, where it's like, oh, this couple's gonna have like a 10-minute fight so that it completely explains all the behavior afterwards. You know what I mean? Like you get these psychological insights into people and they really take their time with it, but it doesn't feel like a 2-hour and 15-minute movie. I mean, after a while, I could probably do with like 8 to 10% less David Morse foot injuries. But like, that's pretty much the only thing I would cut out of this thing.
That's always a good kidnapping subplot when
Right.
there's something wrong physically with the person.
Yeah.
Like it's like a hip or cuts on the feet or something's gone wrong physically.
Something's infected.
Yeah, something's infected. Like Castaway has that too, where it's like he's got the tooth issue.
Yeah.
It's always put some sort of human.
I had
element
only
to it.
just recovered as a young man from just finally getting over Bruce Willis's feet in Die Hard. So
that's
this
another
is
good
tough
one.
for me to watch. Yeah.
So that romance ruined the movie.
You think so?
It ruined the success of it. Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that in a second. But Meg Ryan was paid $15 million. Crowe has paid 7.5. So the rare case of the woman getting twice as much as the man. Now, really interesting point in both of their careers. So Meg Ryan, her 10-year run, 89 to 98. When Harry Met Sally is 89. Now you go through, she becomes basically the rom-com queen, is in a bunch of good stuff. Did really good work in Courage Under Fire.
Yeah.
Which was an excellent movie.
I also liked her a lot in Flesh and Bone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You Got Mail is 1998. This movie is 2000. So it's at the tail end. It's really hard, I think, as a lead actress to kind of keep that lead because there's always that next one. You're almost like a running back. They're always going to bounce you for the next young running back.
It's like an unintentional passing of the torch.
Yeah.
Right here between Ryan and Crowe. Not necessarily the same kinds of movies, obviously, and not even like the same levels of success. But in terms of like 10-year runs, it's literally like he takes her life force in this movie and then goes on to have like one of the best 8-year runs that we've seen in a long time.
So he's coming in 97 to 03. And he'd been one of those guys. He was kind of the hot next guy.
Best guy in a bad movie.
For years.
Yeah.
I remember when he was in Virtuosity.
Yep.
And it was like, this is Russell and Denzel. This is going to be a thing.
And he does LA Confidential.
So that's when it starts. 97-03, LA Confidential. Mystery Alaska, which is a really flawed movie. He's really good in it.
Yeah.
And I actually give that movie a belated thumbs up because I think there's a lot of good stuff going on in there. Our friend Cole Meany, he ruins that one too, from Con Air. We made fun of him before. So Mystery Alaska. Then The Insider, he does the gain weight thing.
When are we doing Insider?
Maybe this year. Yeah. Great in that. Gains the weight. Gladiator. That's when he blows up.
Yeah.
He becomes... Is he the biggest star in the world after Gladiator?
I think he takes over the Mel Gibson, Harrison Ford spot.
Yes, fair. Because Leo is 3 years after Titanic, probably the most famous. Yeah, so you got the Harrison Ford. Who was the other one you said?
Mel Gibson. That role.
So
that
he takes
kind
the
of
Gibson spot.
Yeah.
Because I think 10 years earlier, the Proof of Life is a Mel Gibson movie.
Harrison Ford and Gibson were both up for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he goes, LA Confidential, Mystery Alaska, The Insider, Gladiator, Proof of Life, A Beautiful Mind,
And then he just like basically runs the Oscars.
Master and Commander.
Which I love.
So he makes 7 movies, 5 of which were nominated for Best Picture. And Gladiator actually won. So I read this online. It must be true. Really hard to do that. The last person who had done that before him was William Hurt, who had 5 and 6 years nominated for Best Picture. But that's just the Hollinger, the Crowe PR is off the charts.
Yeah.
But then after that, follows it up with Cinderella Man, A Good Year, 3:10 to Yuma, American Gangster, Body of Lies, State of Play. None of which got there. You like 3:10 to Yuma more than I did.
I like 3:10 to Yuma. I also, I still like American Gangster, and I think Body of Lies is really underrated. But this feels a lot like the second half of a 10-year contract you give to a 28-year-old baseball player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where he's like, whoa, he's crushing it with every penny was worth it. And then you're like, 22 homers and a hamstring injury every year.
You're losing in the first round each year.
Yeah.
But he gets to work with Ron Howard. He gets to do like his weird wine movie. He gets to work with Denzel. He gets to work with Leo. He does Ben Affleck. So they're all movies that made sense. And when I heard of them, I thought all of them were going to do well.
Oh, yeah.
And none of them really hammered home. Still, 97 to 09. Incredible run. It got me thinking, like, I like what you said about Gibson. Who was the one?
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford. So who took the torch from Russell Crowe in like the late 2000s?
So is this is to play into my idea of like, you see these people and they do a movie together and then that one person takes it from another person.
Yeah.
So you could kind of make the argument that Meg Ryan is a huge star. Russell Crowe does Proof of Life. He's also in Gladiator that year, so it's not quite right. And he's already been in.
It's almost like It Follows.
And then
the IMDb It Follows.
And then he bounces from that.
Yeah.
And then that Leo really takes it from him in Body of Lies, because in Body of Lies, he inexplicably goes back to his insider weight. And he's kind of like this guy who's just like on his cell phone, and he's like on a Bluetooth speaker
I don't
the
know
entire
if it was inexplicably. I think he might have just gained the weight.
Yeah, but like, and then
He's had a lot of personal issues.
Leo becomes kind of like, I mean, he's already a really bankable Oscar guy.
I don't feel like it's Leo, because 2 years before in 2006 was The Departed and Blood Diamond.
That's true.
So he had kind of taken it by that point. But I feel like Leo's in his own category. There's this other category of like, and this is why Mel Gibson and Russell Crowe, it's funny, they're both Australian, right? Was Mel Gibson Australian, or was he
they're
New
both
Zealand?
Australian, yeah.
Russell Crowe was Australian or New Zealand?
he is.
Those guys that, and this is why I think Proof of Life, as crazy as this sounds, is probably the best Russell Crowe part. I don't think it's his best part, but I think it's the part that uses the most pieces of Russell Crowe, because it's like, cool guy. I'd want to hang out with him.
Way better hang than Maximus.
Way better hang than Maximus. Like the scenes with Caruso and like, oh, here's our team. Like it just feels like he's a guy's guy. You can see him as the dad who's kind of bummed out. He has that one scene where he goes see his kid with the rugby. I'm the dad. I mean well, but the job overwhelms me sometimes. Then it's like, he's a good looking guy. You don't want to leave him alone with your wife when you've been kidnapped. He's going to pull that out. But also like a dutiful guy where it's like, you're married. I'm not going to steal you from your kidnapped husband.
Yes.
Like there's some sense of honor. He juggled all of these things, and I think it's really hard for an actor to do that. And that's why I like the Mel Gibson call you made. Because I think Mel Gibson was like that until he fucking lost his marbles.
Yeah.
But Mel Gibson was this guy, like the Lethal Weapon character is like, great guy. I'm in on that guy. He's fucking crazy. But then he could play somebody else, a different thing. And it's really hard. Like I think Affleck has tried to be the Russell Crowe type forever, but just could never put all the pieces of the meal together.
Yeah. No, I think the Mel Gibson call is really right, because he brings a degree of authenticity and wild-eyed, real like instability almost to that Lethal Weapon part.
Yeah.
And there's a degree of like warmth. To be able to juggle like being warm and then also being dangerous is really tough. And that's what Crowe does in Proof of Life.
This movie made me miss Russell Crowe.
Oh, yeah.
It's like how I'll watch some vintage Tim Duncan from 2003 and be like, man, I fucking miss watching Tim Duncan.
Yeah.
Just the 50.
It's a good analogy. It's a good, like, it's like quiet.
It's like one of those great basketball players.
Efficiency,
You see the old YouTube clip and you're like, man, Jason Kidd running the fast break. You're like, it's the best, man. Jason Kidd on the fast break.
Also, like him as like a movie star and not like, I'm really going to go for this, like the basically like the Oscar bait. This is it. This and Gladiator, like my wife and I were watching this last night and she was like, Russell Crowe's like really attractive.
Fucking, handsome dude.
And she had never really like, all she knows him from is the sort of more bloated stuff and like Gladiator. And she was like,
but that's the thing. It's like you have the guy that guys would want to hang out with and girls would want to make out with is pretty much the hardest thing to pull off as an actor. And even somebody like Leo, like can't imagine hanging out with Leo.
No.
I feel like Russell Crowe would do a podcast and be like, all right, mate, we're going to go have a beer. What do you drink around here at the Ringer?
He'd bring his own bar.
He probably would.
Yeah.
Like he had, when he was at the height of his fame, he also started that weird music band.
Yeah, like
and
40 odd grunts of whatever. Like,
and then play in Australia and they would sell out like 15,000, 20,000 thing arenas. So he was a unique dude. So anyway, they fall in love. Word gets out. So that she's married to Dennis Quaid, who is at that point still really famous. This has happened a couple times in history, famously. 1963, Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton, Cleopatra. They fall in love. All the Us Weeklies and stuff of that era just going nuts about it. And then people feel like it actually hurt the movie. 1972, Ally McGraw, Steve McQueen.
The Getaway, right?
Steve McQueen steals it from Robert Evans.
Yeah.
She's the best pair of legs I ever had.
Yeah.
And that actually helped the movie.
Yeah. We'll give it like an air of like romance that's not really there. Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which is after this, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, another one.
That's the peak.
Did they hook up? Who knows? So it could go either way. And in this case, definitely hurt the movie. Taylor Hackford gave an interview after, which I dug up, where he said he had a press conference and they asked him about, did the affair really help your film? And he said, no, it actually hurt it. And Russell Crowe was so mad he never talked to him again.
So how did it hurt it? Because people were like, we feel bad for Dennis Quaid, so we're not rooting for this couple?
Yeah, I think what happened was Meg Ryan was America's sweetheart for the entire 1990s.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, she's basically dumping her older husband for handsome as hell Russell Crowe.
Yeah, and I guess also the problem, I guess it plays into who she plays in this movie, where it's just like, it's not a Meg Ryan part.
But that's what's so great about this movie.
I know!
The plot is paralleling the real life, and I do feel like there are real sparks where you can kind of see where something's changing.
Yeah.
But it bleeds into the movie in all the right ways, which is what makes it so cool.
It's such a complicated love triangle. Because when you add in the kidnapping part, there's so much guilt in there because they have so much guilt even for just like interacting.
Yeah.
And then he's like, there's that point where they basically think that David Morse's character is dead. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm basing it on instinct. I'm not going to do it until I see a body. And she's just like, let me grieve, like let me go.
Him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me grieve.
It's
so
a
we
really
can go fuck in the living
nuanced
room.
and complicated thing. Janice is gone. We can do it.
It does make you think like, we'll get to that because I have some thoughts on that. Dennis Quaid told Megyn Kelly on Today's Show, actually a year ago, that what really ruined their doomed showbiz marriage was his own anger over stepping out to people cheering Meg, Meg, Meg. She became more famous than him.
Yeah.
Once again, proving the Bill Simmons theory, which is one of my favorite theories.
Which is
basically based on Ryan Philippe and Reese Witherspoon. When people start out equally, celebrity actors,
it's doomed.
But one passes the other, one ascends higher than the other one does, you can't last.
But wasn't he bigger and then she came up through Interspace? Like after
they met on Interspace and they were pretty equal at that point. And then she had already been in Top Gun. I think they started out equal. When Harry Met Sally, she goes higher and then it's over.
Yeah.
Maybe I guess Big Easy, maybe he was a little...
That's not that big of a movie, though. I mean, like, what's the biggest Dennis Quaid movie?
Reese Witherspoon, Ryan Philippe is the best one because they're in Cruel Intentions. They're dead equal. And then she becomes Reese Witherspoon. It's like, that's not lasting.
Right.
So it'll be, I'm
Who's
trying to think of a Ringer analogy.
Who is that of today?
I don't know. Who is it today? Well, it's probably like...
Chris Pratt, Anna Faris.
Oh, that's another good one. Producer Craig.
Off the bench. Oh my God.
That's great.
Great job, man.
One. Chris Pratt kind of passed Anna Faris.
Yeah.
She's successful.
Mm-hmm.
Great career.
Yeah.
Much envied. Chris Pratt's an A-lister. But Chris Pratt's a good example of this Russell Crowe thing. We always talk about the Chris Wars and all the Chris's, and you have all these leading actors now. None of them kind of combine all of the stuff Russell Crowe has in this movie.
No. Also,
where there's like some baggage with him that he brings to each movie in a way that you can't even define.
He didn't have to play superheroes that everybody already had a preconceived notion about what they should be. The hardest thing he had to do, or the most baggage he had to deal with, was playing what most people would be like, oh, that's like Spartacus, right? And like, you're not Kirk Douglas. That's about as much of it. These guys have to serve so many masters when they're doing like these superhero movies. And then they also wind up having to make 9 of them. So their prime years are spent making these movies. And very few of them actually wind up parlaying that into like, well, now I'm going to go do this, like on the side, I'm going to do this Kenneth Lonergan movie just to like kind of like to feed my artistic soul. They get so busy doing this crap that they don't wind up doing that much stuff outside of Captain America or Iron Man or whatever. I mean, we were talking about this on The Watch, I think a couple days ago, about like what the like with Downey, and given the fact that Downey could have probably like greenlit anything he wanted over the last 10 years outside of Iron Man, but all he does is make Iron Man and Sherlock Holmes movies. I mean, he's probably like one of the richest men in the state of California.
Right.
But he could have made like 4 or 5 really great movies on the side there.
The point you made, I'm going to add to it. This was probably the last normal career before superhero movies ruined. So if Russell Crowe comes along 10 years later, they probably pick him to be like Superman in 1998.
Yeah.
If we have all the comic book shit we have then. Gladiator is basically a superhero movie, but it's not. It's this expertly crafted, awesome Ridley Scott movie that now these days Gladiator would have like superpowers, right?
Yeah. Or it would be
blind.
Like, or he would be like 300 and it would be like he's in hell or he's like, you know what I mean? There's like flying elephants or whatever.
It's too bad.
The one other thing I was going to mention about Proof of Life before we get into awards, if that's where we're going next, but it's really interesting to look at this on the kind of timeline of thrillers through the 2000s, because this is pretty much like the last pre-9/11 thriller. Because all the stuff that happens after that, even if it had been in development before 9/11, I think sort of takes on much more surveillance state stuff, war on terror stuff, or like a lot of post or during Iraq stuff. And so a lot of the thrillers, like basically it goes from Proof of Life, which is essentially a romance with an action movie around it, to the Bourne movies. And even though the Bourne movies have some really like good interpersonal dynamics, like especially that first one, it winds up being mostly about like the surveillance state and the ability to like zero in on someone's face from a satellite and capture them. Whereas this is very much like they don't find this guy until the priest gets out of the jungle and tells them about where they are. And everything after that is like this digitized, very like related to like the way warfare became in the 2000s after 9/11. So it's kind of like a weird last movie before that.
And it also has an amazing premise of a movie. Guy's hired to find this wife's husband, falls in love with the wife. Doesn't totally have to save the husband if he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Could go save the husband,
Could have
and
an
then the guy
accident.
could have an accident. Grenade could hit him at the wrong time. We didn't talk about Caruso yet. There's another piece of this movie.
Yeah.
It's a great kidnapping movie. It's Russell Crowe as Apex. It's a very strange Meg Ryan performance that's weirdly likable, but we'll get into the pros and cons. It's got a really good plot. I love the South American, the scenery, everything. It's just like you really feel like you're there. And the shoot, which we'll get into, was a nightmare. And then Caruso.
Unbelievable. Do we rename the Dion Waiters Award for him?
Like, I kind of feel like we should think about doing that.
Or should we change it to the Dino Waiters Award?
What was his name in the movie?
Dino.
The Dino Waiters Award? All right, done. That's amazing. I have never in my life, how many have we done? We've done like 55.
Yeah.
There's never been a better Dion Waiters performance.
Oh, absolutely.
It is the all-time.
It's the Cecil B. DeMille Lifetime Achievement Award.
It is
Dion
Bill
Waiters.
Walton going 21 for 22 in the UCLA championship game. It's Don Larson's perfect game.
Yeah.
It's Brady in the second half of the Atlanta Super Bowl.
Definitely thinks that Proof of Life is about his character.
He tackles it in the impression this is a David Caruso movie that Russell Crowe and Meg Ryan are also in.
Yes.
I have more scenes. They just haven't given me the script yet.
He speaks 3 languages in this movie, completely unnecessarily.
He dials it up to levels that I didn't know were possible.
And so just recently, a couple of days ago, because of something else, because I was talking about David Milch with somebody else, and I rewatched one of my favorite pieces of television you'll ever see, which is the Dinner for Five episode of Jon Favreau, Timothy Olyphant, Jay Moore, Michael Rappaport, and David Milch. And they're talking about Caruso.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of different funny anecdotes in there, but there's one thing that I think Jay Moore mentions, that Caruso never looks at the person he's acting with, that he's like never looks them in the eyes.
Oh yeah, he does.
And if you watch, after you hear that, you will never watch anything with Caruso the same again, because you're like, he's not even looking at Russell Crowe's in the face when he's sitting as close to Russell Crowe as I am to you. It is so wild. It is such a choice.
Tell the other David Milch story from that.
Oh man, there's this incredible story where Caruso and Milch are working on NYPD Blue, and Milch has had a pretty like hard living life, and Caruso is probably on the ascendancy with his stardom, so he's starting to be like, what is this crap you're writing? So every day when they're shooting, he's making Milch like explain every line of dialogue and challenging him on everything. And he brings him to the set one day, and he's got Milch there, and Milch and him are going back and forth through every single line of dialogue, and Milch is on Dinner for Five telling the story, and he's like, midway through this argument, I realize I'm having a heart attack. And he realizes he's having a heart attack, but he won't let Caruso know because he doesn't want Caruso to win the argument. So he finishes the argument, and then he turns to this the guy who's like the special consultant on NYPD Blue and is like, take me to the hospital, I'm dying. It's an incredible episode of TV.
That is pure hatred when you're like, I can't have a heart attack in front of this guy. I don't think he would. Let him find out later. So he was an officer and a gentleman in 1982.
Yeah.
And he's really good in it.
He's a good actor.
And then it's like he was kind of the redheaded guy from Officer and Gentleman, but was in this great movie called Thief of Hearts.
Okay.
1984. The star was Manny from Scarface, Stephen Bauer.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And it's David Caruso. And it's some lady that I don't know. I don't remember what her name was or whether she's ever seen it again. But they're these burglars. And Stephen Bauer steals her diaries as part of the burglary and starts reading them. And then realizes like what she likes and wants and uses the diaries as a way to seduce her. And they have an affair. And it is incredible. And I have no idea why it's not on television.
It's like some of the
those 80s
log
plots
lines.
were the best.
I just saw a trailer for this movie the other day because my wife and I were looking around at romantic comedies, and I actually loved this movie when I saw it. But when I was going back to think about it, it's that movie. It's called Only You, and it's Marissa Tomei and Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
And it's entirely premised on the fact that Marissa Tomei, when she's a kid, gets a name from a Ouija board of who's going to be her true love, and then like 20 years later, Robert Downey Jr. tells her he's that guy, but he's lying. And they go on like a trip to Venice together and fall in love. It's like, what is this movie? But those are like a dime a dozen back then.
So then he drifts through the 80s basically, gets to the 90s, and he's in Mad Dog and Glory. He's really good in Mad Dog and Glory.
Yeah.
And I think that got him the NYPD Blue part. That was my dad and I was living in Boston by that time after college. And we watched all the NYPD Blues together. The first 6, I think, is one of the great 6-episode stretches. And I just remember being like, this guy's one of the greatest actors of my entire lifetime. He was this beaten down guy. And I remember my dad had just gotten the superintendent job for the school system, Easton, where he worked. And he would come home and we would watch NYPD Blue, and he'd be like, you know why I like this show? Because he's the only guy who has a worse day than me every week. And Schwimmer was on it, and he was incredible on it. But then there started to be these reports that he was a dick.
Oh, yeah.
And then he leaves after year 1. This is like the hottest cop show, I would say, in a decade.
Yeah.
And he leaves, and everybody's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this?
Like, what's your plan here? Yeah.
And he goes and makes Kiss of Death, which I will stand by and fight for the death with Nick Cage.
But then he makes Jade.
I love that movie. And then Jade, and it falls apart.
Yeah.
And then it goes through basically the rest of the 90s.
He's back on TV by the end of the decade.
He does Michael Hayes, which was the CSI Miami. Doesn't work. His career is stalled. It is now a disaster. It's now 6 years after NYPD Blue. And then he shows up as Dino. And people are like, oh yeah, Caruso.
It's like
fucking James Cagney.
It's like if Fredo and Sonny are the same guy in this movie. It's unbelievable. He gets dunked on like 5 times, but he's also like the hothead, and he saves the day. And it's just like,
great leader.
I think Gilroy's script is impeccable in this movie. It's really great. I don't know. I would love to know if Caruso went off book. Because there are parts where I'm like,
don't you fucking die on me!
Yeah, and he's like, what's my name? Asshole! He's okay! Like, it's like, there's so many moments like where I'm like, did they improv this? Did Caruso just decide to do this? Because there's actually like scenes where they emotionally don't make any sense. Like, you can't tell what Dino wants.
Right.
Like, what the outcome Dino
like that
wants.
Russell Crowe scene you mentioned before.
Yeah.
He's trying to talk them into doing the raid, and it's like, wait, Caruso suggested the raid, but now he doesn't want to do it, but he actually does?
The final raid that they do to get David Morse out of the jungle, David Caruso's character, Dino, essentially like Sean McVay's it.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, I need this. Like, I need to cash out, start my own shop, and if we do this, we'll be legends.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and I've gone over this in every single way, and it's fucked. And Russell Crowe's like, so you're in? And he's like, absolutely. And he changes his mind like 4 times. And meanwhile, he's got like 3 guys from Panama with him. And he's like, vaya con Dios, let's go.
I love when, first of all, anybody who says this is my Panama crew.
Yeah, this is my Panama crew.
I might call Craig and the podcast producers my Panama crew. Like, hold on, I'm going to get Craig from my Panama crew.
Yeah, really dependable guys. Cool.
It's like, I don't know what happened in Panama, but I know it was good. Caruso. So this leads us to the 2000 Best Supporting Actor nominations. I think Caruso and David Morse should have been nominated for this movie.
Like, it's basically like The Favorite, but
we
for
didn't
guys.
talk about David Morse, but he is like incredible in this movie. And he was a guy, he made a movie called Inside Moves.
If Daniel Day-Lewis does this movie, they're still talking about this performance.
Oh my God. They're like, gee, his feet, how did he do it?
Starts out, he's an engineer, and then at the end, he looks like Moses, and he's got bloody feet. Yeah.
Inside Moves, 1979. He plays this bartender who's crippled, who has a crippled knee, who was going to be an NBA player. It doesn't happen. Now he's got these band of cripples.
Yeah.
And they all band together and they buy him a knee surgery, and he ends up making the Golden State Warriors. And there's scenes with Robert Parrish and like he's
serious?
actually, I swear to God, John Savage. So he was in that. He was in St. Elsewhere.
Yeah.
And he played the doctor who got raped on St. Elsewhere. It was
I
like the
didn't know
first
that.
rape in the history of television. But he had like a key part on St. Elsewhere, and he's traumatized by the rape, all that stuff. And then he became that guy.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, that guy, the guy from St. Elsewhere, the guy from Inside Moves.
He had that show on CBS where he's a cab driver, Hack. Remember that?
Oh, I made a lot of hack jokes in my day. Hack. This week on Hack. But then this is his best movie. So anyway, best supporting actor that year, 2000. Benicio del Toro won for Traffic.
Okay. Pretty
we
amazing
okay?
that. Yeah.
We're okay with that.
Totally
I'm
fine
okay with that. Jeff Bridges did not win for The Contender, but he got nominated. I thought he was amazing in The Contender.
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix, Gladiator.
2000 is like a low-key pretty good fucking movie.
I mean, those are like, all three of those could win in other years. Albert Finney and Eric Brockovich.
That was a weird, I think that was like a thanks for playing like for your entire life kind of.
It was an old guy. And then Willem Dafoe in Shadow of a Vampire. People love nominating Willem Dafoe for things
That no one's
as we
ever
found out
seen.
this year. Yeah, it's like, oh, Willem Dafoe's in a weird movie. So here's who didn't get nominated. Caruso and David Morse.
Okay, I don't even know if there was a 4-year consideration campaign for them. So
I wish we had known each
should
other.
we start one?
Caruso.
Should we retroactively start an FYC for Caruso and Proof of Life?
Is there not? What is the thing when you get the career achievement?
Yeah, like lifetime achievement.
Yeah, lifetime achievement. Mark Ruffalo, you can count on me. Not
Oh my
nominated.
God. He didn't get nominated?
Bad one. And then I didn't even think of this one until I was researching. Almost Famous came out the year. Billy Crudup and Philip Seymour Hoffman.
It's pretty rare that you could do an entire other group of
That's
nominees.
what I was saying. I just gave you my alternate 5 nominees for that category.
This is like a Team USA lineup where
It
it's
really
like
is.
the bench 5 could beat the starting 5.
Hoffman not getting nominated for Lester Bangs is kind of incredible.
And what a run for him right then. That's like right after
God.
Ripley and yeah.
So I was really upset about no Caruso and Morse, and then I saw the first 3 nominees. I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus. Del Toro, Bridges, and Phoenix. Those are like iconic roles
Yeah.
for all 3. Phoenix was amazing in Gladiator.
Yeah.
And then that led me to the realization that Crowe had Gladiator and Proof of Life same year.
I know. It's just astonishing. I love the double movie.
That's
here.
like winning points and assists. Did Westbrook do that? No, he was first in one and second in the other.
Yeah.
Tiny Archibald did it, I
Did
guess.
Hard never do that? No.
He might end up doing it this year. All right, let's take a break and then we're going to get to the categories. All right, as predicted, this has already gone on way too long. The categories, we'll go quick through these in case you haven't seen this movie because there's a couple other things I want to
What a
hit as we go
podcast for
through.
you if you haven't seen this movie.
Oh my God.
Craig, do you think this movie sounds good based on how we're talking about it?
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it.
There you go. We got Craig. We got another Proof of Life fan. Most rewatchable scene, Peter abducted by the guerrilla rebels.
Mm-hmm. And I love that Volkswagen Cabriolet he has too.
When you see that, so he crouches in the car and he's trying to make a call. But I was trying to think like, is there a scarier moment than you're in your convertible Jeep or whatever he's driving and all of a sudden somebody gets shot and then you just see dudes with masks coming out of the fucking hill?
That scene is so good because it's so confusing what's going on with those 2 guys on the motorcycle and the cop.
Yeah.
And then all those guys rappelling down the
You see
running
guys
forward.
in masks rappelling?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
There's no way out of this. I'm in trouble. Second one, the Crowe comes back. They get rid of him.
1, 2, 3 guys with guns. Table full of money.
Arturo.
Snapping assholes.
Arturo, the person, after he had told them
Yeah.
they're going to suggest a local, don't trust this person, he leaves because his insurance company screws it up. And then Meg Ryan is forced to turn to Arturo and the ransom nappers,
Yes.
as I have named them.
Yeah.
Crowe comes back in, Caruso,
from behind, yeah.
and they foil it, and it's great.
Arturo, I thought you were going legit.
How are you, Arturo? And then Meg Ryan's sister-in-law, as you point out, one of the fun things with kidnapping movies is when normal people are in kidnapping situations. And the sister-in-law does a good job of just freaking out. There's money, there's guns, they're just having a stroke.
When they leave, she's like, oh my God!
Yeah. Caruso convincing Russell Crowe to go get the hostages.
Mm-hmm.
We just talked about that scene. I threw this in just because I love it. Russell Crowe finds out who Marco is, the person negotiating with them.
With the woman who works in the house, right?
Yeah. And they go, he confronts them at the parade. It's just a really good scene.
An awesome scene.
Why don't you call me Tio? I'll call you Marco.
Lo siento, amigo, pero no hablo nada de inglés.
You got a good game going here, mate. Your wife thinks you're out with the card buddies think you're off with the mistress. And there you are, on the radio every Wednesday night, bartering human life.
He's like, I got the tape right here.
Yeah, that's great. Caruso confronting Crowe about being in love with Meg Ryan.
Oh yeah, you think you're gonna run off with her?
Are you in love with this woman?
Yeah.
Are you in love with this woman? Terry, I don't know what you're holding out hope for. That you're going to save this lady's husband, she's going to see the light and run off with you. It doesn't work that way. You know that.
So good. The hostage rescue.
Great action scene.
I mean, I would put that 9-10 minutes against anything.
See, so
this is why we're doing this as a Rewatchables, because we don't understand why this isn't considered to be an all-time classic. That 10-minute rescue scene is all time.
So, here's the thing about this movie, is you get to that, and there's a couple of parts in this movie, and I do this a lot with movies like this, where I'm like, oh man, I wish Michael Mann had directed this, or I wish this had looked but Hackford's pretty good, man.
He is.
And when they get to the end of this, all the choices that they've made, that as my wife said last night, I could do with like 35% more flirting and 35% less jungle, but when you get to the end, you are really invested in David Morse getting out of there because you've been with him through every step of his captivity.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's pretty crucial. And at the end, you're just like, oh no, you got to watch out for Waco. You know, like, yeah.
Fucking Waco.
Yeah.
They set up the Wacos. Waco is the evil hostage holder.
Yeah.
What's his evil gorilla, I guess you would call him. And then I'm going to make this its own scene. The very end.
Oh, the Van Morrison.
Van Morrison and Russell Crowe watching the car drive away.
Incredible.
I got to say, that's the best minute of Russell Crowe's career.
And he smiles, and then he's sad, and then he like kind of smirks again.
He makes 7 different facial expressions, and it really feels like he's now left the set, and he's like, how are we going to tell Dennis Quaid about this? You can see him racing out through his, fuck, how are you going to promote this movie? I'm in love with this woman.
Great music choice.
One of the best ending songs.
Yeah.
Every time I hear it, I'm like, oh shit, what was the name of that? Then you have to go listen to the whole thing. I don't know how they got the rights to it. Van Morrison's such a weirdo and stuff like that. Probably the best song they could have picked for that moment. One of the best closing credit songs ever. Then they come away from Russell Crowe with the helicopter shot.
And they
just zoom through. It's so fucking great.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And he is like, I honestly think he's one of the most talented actors we've ever had for male actors.
For movie stars, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think he's like top 5 or 6. Like how we talk about basketball players or football players, like who had all the tools, who could do the most things. Like he's up there. He's amazing. So what was your most rewatchable scene?
I just want to put a special shout out to when Terry first goes to Alice and Janice and is like, I'm Terry, like, here's what's happening.
Yeah.
And they do the montage of him. It's like him explaining who the rebel guerrillas are and what they're being like. They used to just be Marxists and then they were kidnappers and now they're cocaine dealers.
Yeah.
And they like basically run drugs in this country and they kidnap for like to keep the profits coming in. And like, as they're doing that, they cut back and forth between the rebel camps and him explaining it. That scene's awesome. I also really like the extended fight between David Morse and Meg Ryan in the beginning.
At the very beginning.
Because it's also like that great, like, what would you do situation where you're like, you know that the entire movie, she's like, the last things that we said to each other were so hurtful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's such...
That's a good point.
And it's such a great setup for the movie because not only does it set it up where she's feeling like, man, I got to come up with that extra $50,000. But like also like you can kind of see the
She's
cracks.
still in that fuck that guy mode.
The cracks of their relationship where he might be coming in and be like she's like this romantic ex-hippie And she might be drawn to some like independent spirit like that because things are kind of falling apart with her husband. If you don't have that scene, people really turn on the Meg Ryan character, I think.
It's true. So what's age the best? The most rewatchable.
I'm going to go, the kidnapping scene is incredible. That's just like...
Over the hostage rescue.
I'm going to go just get kidnapped.
Downtown 1, this is Downtown 3.
But I just don't think I've ever seen anything like that kidnapping scene where it's like that traffic jam and the way that he goes up and there's like a procession so he can't take his usual street.
It's great.
And he's calling Texas and the mobile phone's not working and the not Jack Crawford, but the guy from Silence of the Lambs is on the phone with him. Oh.
We're going to get to that guy. I'm going hostage rescue. What's age the best? The last hour of this movie is one of the best hours of any movie for me.
Yeah.
From the moment, and I've marked it exactly when it is. When the sister leaves to go get the money. It's at like the 1:13 mark. If you just watch from that point on, it is the best hour.
Janice is kind of a buzzkill because like she doesn't even like the fact that Meg Ryan's smoking so much, which I love. Meg Ryan is like out of her gourd in this one.
She always has to say.
Yeah, well, as soon as Janice leaves, it jumps up a notch.
Because now it's like, now they're stuck together.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's just the movie gets going. The last hour is great. Russell Crowe leading me in. We talked about it. I don't know if we talked about this. Every Caruso scene is aged the best. I fucking love that guy. The lessons of hostage negotiation. We learn about that in this. 3 lessons, according to Russell Crowe. Rely on nobody local. Trust nobody. Don't offer a number too fast or they'll demand a new one.
Right, because it'll just be a down payment. It'll be like, thank you for the down payment. Now we're going to renegotiate a new fee.
Be patient.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone ever takes producer Craig, I'm going to stick by all those 3 things. The Crowe-Ryan sexual attention, it's real and it's spectacular.
Yeah.
It's really like, you really feel like they're going to start fucking the moment the camera, the guy says, all right, cut. Let's go to the trailer and go. Like and there's a specific point when it flips, and I think it's right around when the sister leaves, when every time she's looking at him, she's just sizing him up, and I don't feel like it's fully acting. And if I'm Dennis Quaid and I'm watching that movie, I'm just bummed out by about the halfway point.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck.
I know
that look. Oh, man. What did we say this place was called? I wrote Tecate down. That's not wrong. That's a beer. Tecala? Tecate. They're in the land of Tecate.
Yeah, Tecala.
Tecala. Yeah, not Tecate. Amazing scenery.
Yeah.
Wacko the stone bad guy. He's aged wonderfully.
Yeah.
You sleep with the pigs.
It's the whole relationship with like Waka and then also Linda, who's like nice to him for a while, but then when he tries to get her to let him out, she's just like, fuck you. Like, I'm not going to do that.
And then trying to figure out when they started fucking in real life. I think it's right when the sister was leaving the airport. I think they'd at least made out in Russell Crowe's trailer at that point.
There's a photo I just saw today. I don't know if it was like where it was from, but from the making of the movie. And Russell Crowe's wearing this rugby shirt and Meg Ryan is like 2 centimeters from him. And Taylor Hackford's like standing with them, but like is not paying attention. And Taylor Hackford has claimed that he didn't know about it until like the very end of the shoot. And I'm like, come on, man. come on, Taylor.
I forgot it. Caruso had a quote. They asked him if he knew what was going on, and Caruso said, it'd be much funnier to have Caruso read this over me, but what I was aware of was 2 people digging into the material and allowing the chemistry to happen.
There you go.
Caruso. What stage is the best for me? Just Caruso's incredible. It's I don't think anything's ever aged better than Caruso in this movie.
I want his wardrobe so bad from this movie. It's so generic. It's just like a black leather jacket and dad jeans and like a blue shirt.
Spend no money on poor Caruso. What's aged the worst? You could dump the opening scene in my mind. I don't need it.
About Chechnya?
Yeah, I don't need it.
Might even actually be... I mean, it does make you think like this guy's really crafty and good in a war zone.
Don't need it.
Yeah.
I actually was thinking, we don't see Crowe until the 25-minute mark. I think that might be I'm sorry, we don't see Crowe with Meg Ryan until they're like, this is our guy from K&R, it's Russell Crowe. That might be the first time we should see him. I don't know if I need to see him with his son in England.
They used to take more chances of stuff like that.
What do you mean?
They used to just like, Jack Nicholson shows up midway through A Few Good Men. They used to like take more chances with, they don't need to see this guy at first.
And that's another what's aged the worst. This movie's a little too long, and I think you could have cut out 9 minutes, 10 minutes, really. You cut out the opening scene.
And
you cut out a couple other Crowe scenes. Now we're at 2 hours, which is a lot. A lot more manageable. Another What's Aged the Worst. This was the first movie where Meg Ryan definitely dipped into the magic of Botox or whatever was going on, where she was America's sweetheart.
Yeah.
And look, it happens. All the actors do this, but it seemed somehow different for her to do it. It's
I
like,
think I
Meg
was
Ryan.
more distracted by how I forgot how like nervy she was in this, and like she's like a really unhappy character. And she's
it just seemed like she was at a different point in her career and her life almost with this cat. She's, as you said, like jittery.
Yeah.
She had like a little nose thing or a Botox thing, or she
and she's
had a little work
chainsmoking.
done.
Yeah.
It was not my When Harry Met Sally, Meg Ryan, but they cut out the Crowe Ryan sex scene in this.
So they had filmed one.
They filmed one. Hackford said they tried it with the screening audiences both ways, and the movie worked better not with the sex scene.
Okay.
In my opinion, this is the biggest flaw of the movie. I think you need the sex scene. I would have the sex scene in
because
the
it
movie.
makes the end more poignant.
Yeah. Well, for two reasons. One, he kisses her out of nowhere.
Right. That is so.
That's fucking weird.
Last night
he's
I
going to
got to
rescue
the
the
kiss,
husband
and then I was like, "Wait, did I miss the first kiss? Because this
Yeah.
seems like a really familiar kiss."
Yeah, it would just it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And I think if you have the sex scene in there, I don't need to like a Basic Instinct, like camera on the ceiling showing her riding him for 10 minutes. But could at least see,
Yeah.
at least see,
A little
that
roll in
they
the
got
hay.
it on.
Yeah.
And I think that buys us more currency with what happens next. Like, oh, they're fucking.
Yeah.
Now he's going to rescue the husband. And my guess is one of two things. Either the research audiences were like, I don't like her. Or they must have been so afraid of this controversy about them dating.
Well,
in
this
real
is like
life.
a real, like, this and Castaway, you really like to think about the politics of what you do when the person's away, right? Like how long
It's great.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things.
So do you think that the character that Meg Ryan plays is in the wrong for falling for the character?
I don't, in this case, no, because she thinks her husband's probably dead and he said that mean thing about their baby in Africa.
Right.
She's probably still holding on to that. She's a little mad. Maybe they drifted apart a tiny bit.
But Helen Hunt, you're like,
Helen Hunt, I mean, she got married within a year and a half. They hadn't even found any plane wreckage. And she was already at her next wedding. That was inexcusable. The last What Age the Worst for me, this is ironic. This goes into what we were just talking about. And I really think they needed the sex scene. It's one of those deleted scenes that they never have deleted sex scenes. They don't put, it's not fair to the actress. So they rescue David Morse.
Mm-hmm.
Pull him in, helicopter lands, she's crying. She's like, oh, your feet. He's sitting in the car. Oh my God.
well, she takes a little bit of time to warm up to him.
It's just hugging. He has to smell like holy hell. That's the thing.
So this is
Can you imagine how bad he smelled?
This is not even a picking nit. It's just like maybe this is an unanswerable question. I don't want to get ahead of it.
Okay, save it.
Okay.
Sitting there, and it's like, we got to get you, basically, we got to get you to the hospital. You're dehydrated.
Yeah.
Your feet are all mangled. You've been shot. Hold on. I just have to say goodbye to Russell Crowe.
I just need 1 minute.
I
to
just
get
need 1 minute.
teary-eyed to talk to this guy.
I just need 1 minute. You stay here and watch us from afar. This isn't going to be weird at all.
Yeah.
And she goes off and she thanks Russell Crowe. And it's longer than a minute. She comes back crying. If I'm David Morse, I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Are you fucking that guy? It's my first reaction. I'm not even thinking about my feelings. Did you fuck that guy? There's no question that, and he kind of sees it, and there's like this knowing kind of look on his face.
It's a great last few minutes because everything goes unsaid.
So I think they break up within 2 months.
The Russell Crowe, Alice and Peter break up.
I think Alice and Peter break up.
I mean, we could talk about the possibilities of Proof of Life 2 for as long as you possibly can.
That's coming later.
Okay.
All I know is this. If I'm kidnapped and I'm in a fucking jungle and I try to escape and I get wood ripping into my calf and my Achilles, my feet are all fucked up, I've lost 40 pounds, I have this beard, I'm like near death, then I escape.
You've missed an entire Celtics postseason.
I don't know what's going on in sports. I have to shoot Wacko. Fly in a helicopter. I got Caruso screaming. I'm so traumatized by all this. And I land. I want my wife. I want it to be us.
Yeah.
You don't get a minute.
Yeah.
You don't get a minute to say goodbye to Russell Crowe. Guess what? Call him on the fucking phone.
Yes.
You know what you don't get is 3 minutes coming back with you more upset than when you rescued. I got rescued. Now I'm like, what the fuck? Get out of here. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm a spiteful person. Casting what ifs. Harrison Ford originally offered the lead role, turned it down.
Yes. I'm so glad.
Thank God. This way, he would have ruined this
He
movie.
would
I
have.
love Harrison
Terry
Ford.
would have been like, it would have been so much older. Like it would have just wouldn't have worked.
No way. Russell Crowe turned down the role of Logan/Wolverine in X-Men because he did not want to play another similar role to Gladiator. Felt the characters were too similar. Wolverine did Proof of Life instead. I found this. This isn't really part of this movie, but I just had to tell you this because I found this whole thing on IMDb where it's like a biography of the person, has all these weird facts in there. Russell Crowe nearly finalized a deal to reunite with director Michael Mann on Collateral in 2004.
Oh, really?
But scheduling conflicts with Eucalyptus, a doomed film project, prevented him from taking the role, which later went to Tom Cruise.
How does Tom Cruise gets the later? What a what if? I mean, Hollywood, like our lives are completely different. Do you think Grantland starts if that happens?
No. I think I'm living in Bristol. I think I'm with Rachel Nichols on The Jump.
Yeah. If Russell Crowe had been in Collateral?
If Russell Crowe's in Collateral, I'm on with The Jump right now, Rachel Nichols.
The butterfly effect, yeah.
Yeah. Also, he turned down The Matrix, which I never realized.
Oh, did he? So Will Smith did too.
He said, I just didn't get it. I couldn't get past page 42. The world was just not interesting to me. So he was...
Something pretty crazy happens on like page 44 of that script.
So he was that guy for like 6 years that is just getting offered every part.
Yeah.
I'm amazed he wasn't in The Departed.
Oh, yeah.
Like he could have played the Alec Baldwin role, right?
Absolutely.
I guess he was too big for it. Dion Waiters Award. This is David Caruso.
We could just not do it. Although I would like to give an honorary shout out to Pamela Reed. And
she was good.
Janice. Yeah.
Arturo's pretty good too.
Yeah.
If you did the box score for Caruso in this movie, it would be like one of those James Harden first halves against Brooklyn. It'd be like 20 minutes, 48 points.
Yeah.
10 for 11 from 3, 20 free throws.
And when he, at the end, when he goes, "We're going to Roma, Arrivederci," and he keeps yelling that at this guy. It's no so reason. Weird. They rescue this Italian banker.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Caruso just keeps shouting, "You want to go to Roma? Arrivederci, Roma!" While they're rescuing him from a hostage situation.
He's like Artie in The Sopranos.
Yeah.
He's like just a crazed maitre d'. Half-assed internet research. Hackford cut the love scene from the film. As I said, he said, "It was completely my decision. I screened the film with or without the love scene and had to go with the version that worked best for the audiences. I don't believe you." The shoot was brutal. Frequent hailstorms, mudslides. 23 members of the crew came down with a case of severe altitude sickness at 14,000 feet high. 2 volcanic eruptions. Tear gas at one point wafted onto the set from a nearby riot. And very sadly, somebody died.
Yeah, David Morse's body double.
The stand-in, Will Gaffney, was killed in an on-set accident. They have not talked about it. Morse said he lost 25 pounds. And then he said on Taylor Hackford, there was one day when he lost it really badly. He lost it with me and he lost it at some of the girls who'd never acted before. He lost it with the crew. He lost it with everybody. Everything was going wrong. He was so out of control of the environment. Because he was talking about how they would shoot these things. It would rain. They'd have to cancel another day.
Yeah.
Sounds like a fun set. They filmed it mainly in Ecuador, by the way. This is a weird story. I almost don't believe this is true, but I think it is. So they filmed that rugby scene. One of the extras asked Russell Crowe for some acting advice. After their conversation, Crowe remembered the student's interest, sent him autographed posters and photos from his film Gladiator, and wrote him a letter. The letter said, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." The extra? Do you know what it is?
No.
Henry Cavill.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
And then Crowe played his dad in the Superman movie because they had stayed friends.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Proof of life.
How about that?
During the scene when Caruso says, "These guys are my Panama crew," you could see a piece of cardboard on the wall behind with "Just Cause" written on it. Just Cause was the U.S. invasion of Panama to capture Noriega.
Okay.
So there you go. There.
I like that.
And then, so this is what Russell Crowe says. At the beginning of the movie, he jumps on the helicopter. Russell Crowe says, probably one of the stupidest things I ever did was in a movie called Proof of Life. So this is like years later. Right at the beginning of the film, there's a sequence where I run up to this helicopter and I jump onto it and it takes off. So I actually did that. I ran up and I grabbed the strap and then it takes off up to 100 feet. The only thing that stopped me from falling off was that I had a good grip on the strap.
So he's saying that he did not have a safety harness on in that shot.
Yeah, and I watched it. It didn't seem like it was 100 feet high. It definitely did seem like he jumped on it, though.
It's also, I mean, like, ever since then, it's like Tom Cruise has been like, fine, I'm just going to like fly through the Himalayas then on a helicopter and teach myself how to fly.
Russell Crowe. Apex Mountain, really nobody except David Morse. I don't even think Caruso, because Caruso, I would say NYPD
No,
Blue.
I'd say he was still at base camp. He'd come down from the peak of NYPD Blue and was stopping on the way to
this character lives on Apex Mountain, but I don't think Chris does.
Dino is the apex of all character actors.
I think David Morse definitely Apex Mountain for him because he's really good in this movie and he's in a movie holding his own with a lot of famous people. The Joey Pants Award given to that guy from the movie. There's only, Hannibal Lecter's doctor.
I know.
I never knew what his name was, so I looked it up. It's Anthony Heald.
Yeah, and he plays like this slimy oil
He plays
executive.
the guy who plays in Silence of the Lambs and an 8mm. One of my other
We're all
favorite.
out of miracles. Yeah.
Treo Buscemi or Michael K. Williams. Treo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of amazed he wasn't in this, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He would have been a good Wacko.
Sure.
The Saul Rubinek Award for the overacting. Some good nominees. Arturo really dials it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wacko dials it up, but the old crazy inmate.
Oh, Kessler.
Kessler.
Yeah.
Kessler really ratchets it up.
Yeah, doing the whole like drawing in the Bible thing.
Yeah,
and
he goes.
His act is great.
I think he wins. Picky Nits. The maid recognized Marco's voice.
Mm-hmm.
His mom works for her. That's really
I don't even
convenient.
know if Russell Crowe's whole gambit where he's like, I have a tape of you. It's like, would anybody be like, oh, that's Fred?
Yeah.
What a crushing blow to Fred's reputation.
Yeah, I don't think so. We are in kidnap country. What did everybody get paid for the... What did Caruso and
so
those
if
guys?
they only have $650, I guess they're supposed to be saying that the Italian guy is probably like the big fish of this whole rescue and that they can get
That should have been the movie.
Peter back.
Yeah.
But it's just that like that the Italian is the one that's going to pay for everything. But I still don't understand, is David Caruso working for another one of those Lutheran insurance or risk companies?
It's a little ambiguous.
Yeah.
I thought basically they have the media rights to this. That's what they negotiated. So if there's a movie,
right? So Dino gets
to sell the movie.
Dino's like, I'm directing this.
Yeah.
Arrivederci.
My big nitpick: Meg Ryan's character. You never see her actually smoke. She holds a cigarette in 7 different scenes, and she's just holding it.
I looked on.
Never smokes.
I did a
ever.
little research into this because one of my pet peeves as a former smoker is celebrities who can't smoke, who don't know what they're doing. And I was looking up whether or not Meg Ryan was a smoker. There are. You'd be surprised to know a lot of message board threads dedicated to whether or not a certain celebrity is smoking or not.
Really?
And apparently,
is that a website?
Meg Ryan was allegedly a chain smoker who didn't want anyone to know she was a chain smoker. So I don't know why she would look so awkward holding the cigarette in this movie. And like when she lights it, it's like she's never lit a cigarette before. But you're right. She's never really taking drags.
So I read that online before I watched the movie again. And then I was like, there's no way she didn't take a drag. Never takes one.
Pamela Reed looks like more of a comfortable smoker than she does.
Yeah. Also found out Russell Crowe was 2-3 packs a day.
Oh, that's great. What a legend.
And then he quit and he couldn't quit. And I'm not sure Russell's going to be around
in your
with
experience,
us.
like Hollywood actors, like more often than not, they're smokers, right?
Yeah, because you're killing all this time on the set and you're going out, you're staying up late at night. It's a great life. Best quote, it's either don't you die on me, man. Don't you fucking die on me.
Don't you fucking die on me, man. I'm trying to tell you, he always does this shit, man. You're a pussy. He's a fucking pussy, man.
Or who's the man? You are. Stuff of Legends.
Who's the man? Stuff of Legends. Stuff, you are the man. Sandro,
Stuff of Legends would have been a good name for The Ringer. We should have thought of that.
Stuff of Legends?
Stuff
Yeah.
of Legends. Welcome to stuffoflegends.com. I love both of those. I'm not picking between them.
No, it's anytime Dino opens his mouth.
Yeah, it's the best quote. Could this be remade as a 10-episode Netflix show? Is the next category. I say no, but I'm so disappointed they didn't have a sequel with Crowe and Caruso spinning off and doing another kidnapping.
And also,
I would have greenlit that in
here's
5 seconds.
the easiest thing.
God damn it.
She leaves Peter. She comes and finds Russell Crowe in London. He's doing his business. And, there's a little bit of spark. They have a little bit of a run. But then they find out really like their relationship was born out of chaos.
Yeah.
It's not like a stable thing.
Right.
They go on a vacation to save the relationship, and she gets kidnapped.
Yes.
And then he has to get Dino to get his girlfriend back, and that's what brings them back together. I mean, what are we doing here?
I don't know.
We can't get that made.
I don't know.
And then if you were gonna cast it today, who would you cast it with?
Can I give you one more possible sequel?
Oh, absolutely, Bill. This is no bad ideas in a brainstorm.
I just think the next movie it's 2 years later, and Caruso, he's broken up with Meg Ryan, and Caruso and Russell Crowe now have their, what did he call it? Their shop?
Their shop.
They have their shop.
They're doing long lunches and consulting.
But Russell Crowe, his son's older.
Yeah.
Son's a big rugby player now. He's out. He doesn't, no more jobs for
Just
him.
wants to watch
He'll
his
help
son's
plan.
rugby games. Yeah.
He's done his last job. But now there's a big job, and Caruso has to pull him in for one last job.
Okay. And Meg Ryan's just out of the picture. She's
South
just
Korea.
Smoking somewhere in South Korea.
She's out.
Okay.
We got rid of her. She's making In the Cut or whatever that movie was. One of those should have worked. Here's what I want. Russell Crowe and David Caruso
in a show
saving somebody who's been kidnapped.
Just
again.
a show called K&R, and it's Russell Crowe and David Caruso.
K&R.
Yeah.
So if ABC was like Tuesdays at 10 o'clock, the premiere episode of K&R, I'd be like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Josh Duhamel? Okay.
Yeah. Come on, let's dial it
Josh
up.
Duhamel. Probably unanswerable questions.
I got one of these.
My only one was, how much is your spouse worth to you in a ransom situation? I think you have to finish this movie and really decide what the number is. For me, it's like, I'm paying whatever because I have kids.
Right.
When you have 2 kids, but if you're just single.
So if you would, let's actually have this conversation.
If it's just
you would
you and the
liquidate
wife,
your entire, just to get your wife back.
I probably shouldn't give my game plan away now.
No, I
my
guess
wife
not,
got
because now I'm going to give the kidnappers the tip. It's like,
I don't want to give my number.
There is no ceiling for Bill.
Chris, here's my number. It's $450. I'm going to go a dime higher.
Okay, so you have to answer that. My unanswerable question was much simpler. It was what did the guy who had the third seat in the plane row think of Meg Ryan and David Morse? Because they go straight to the airport.
Oh my God.
The whole thing is like, we have a flight to Dallas in an hour. So you're on the 5 o'clock out of Tacala going back to Dallas.
And he smells like a homeless person.
He's been in the jungle
Yeah.
for like 3 months.
Yeah.
And she's crying and chain smoking because she's missing out on the fact that the love of her life is standing on the hill back in Tacala. And this guy has a wicker basket wrapped around his infected leg. And they just get on a Pan Am flight to Dallas.
He has multiple infections. He's got.
Are you asking the flight attendant if there may be another seat available?
So do you don't think they sprung for first class on that?
With what money? They just had all the money. Didn't they just spend it on like paying for this K&R?
One way to Dallas. I'll go coach. I'll do the IO. Yeah.
Are we?
Kid, man.
So that's my unanswerable question.
Van Morrison, great job there. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It does seem like they could have thrown in a shower for him.
Yeah. Maybe they have one at the airport.
The Tecate Airport,
Yeah.
Tacala.
Yeah.
Tacala International. Who won the movie?
Crowe. I know you're going to think Caruso a couple of times.
I don't. I actually think it's unassailably Crowe.
It might be my favorite Crowe performance.
It is my favorite Crowe performance. Gladiator was an incredible movie. I couldn't wait to buy it on DVD. I watched it a bunch of times. I had my column in 2000, 2001. I used Maximus lines. I would throw them in there. It's awesome. He's better in this movie.
Yeah.
He's really good in Gladiator. I think he's really good in Insider. LA Confidential, wouldn't put that top 3.
Yeah.
But He's really great. I think you're right. Mel Gibson probably was the only other one.
And it's
can't be a Leo
and it's
role.
like almost impossible to like even think about it. It's like Crowe really does own this role.
Do you think Affleck could have been in this movie?
I was just, you know what I was just thinking of myself?
I do feel like Affleck has it in him.
You know what would have been cool, but probably too intense, is Daniel Day-Lewis in this role. Because it was like, he never did a movie like this.
Yeah.
He always is like, I'm playing like a one-footed guy, or I'm a president, or I'm There Will Be Blood.
Well, you know, the other one who this could have been is Denzel.
Well, I mean,
This is a classic Denzel movie.
Yeah.
But we never really talked about whether Meg Ryan was good enough in this movie.
I think she's great. I think she's great. I feel like I feel like she's like got like a
I
real.
wish she was smoking more.
But I just love the energy, and I think that like the whole thing where like they just kind of casually mention it, but that she's like this. She's an ex-hippie who's kind of like lost a little bit of her idealism, and she follows her husband on these projects, and then she gets into like charitable organizations and stuff, but they obviously have this bad past, and she's just like kind of cracking up a little bit, and the relationship between her and Pamela Reed is really good. I think she's awesome in this movie.
I like when Crowe rescues David Morse finally in the jungle. David Morse is freaking out, and he's like, Alice sent me.
Yeah.
Your daughter.
Alice sent me. Alice, your wife sent me. Alice, your wife. Alice. She told me about Marley, your daughter, how she died in Africa.
My daughter.
Marley. Alice told me, your wife, so you would know. I'm here to get you home, okay? All right?
You're not fucking with me.
No, mate. I'm for real. We're gonna get out of here.
It's a good scene.
Yeah.
Great movie. Proof of Life. You can't really see this anywhere other than you could pay for it
On iTunes, yeah.
On iTunes or Vudu, or it's not on Amazon. Not on Netflix for some reason.
It was, I think, for a while.
Netflix should just release this and make it seem like it's a new movie, like how they did with You, the Lifetime show.
People would
It's
freak
a
out.
brand new movie with Russell Crowe. It's called
Why don't
Proof of
people
Life.
do that more often?
I doubt people even knew this happened. Chris, the next 15 will be for them. This one was for us.
What's the next one after this?
Next one after this is The Warriors.
Oh, great.
40-year anniversary.
Okay.
We already taped that one. Warriors. That's next. Thanks as always for listening to Rewatchables.